18,000 rounds in 8.5 minutes. That's what 3 Gatling guns fired at San Juan Hill in 1898. When the smoke cleared, only 40 of 600 Spanish soldiers in the targeted trenches were still alive. The Gatling gun Clint Eastwood fires in the Outlaw Josey Wales. It's the wrong model by 7 years, a Colt 1872 in .45-70 caliber, not the 1865 model the film's timeline requires. And Eastwood operating it single-handed? The 1878 artillery school manual required a 5-man crew minimum. One man physically could not crank, aim, adjust elevation, feed ammunition, and manage traverse simultaneously. The real Gatling fired 500-grain lead projectiles at 1,200 feet per second at an 1862 demonstration, so witnesses reported it cut a 10-inch tree in half in under 30 seconds. The noise could be heard for 5 miles. This wasn't a Western prop. It was the weapon that ended the age of heroic combat and ushered in industrial slaughter, invented by a pacifist doctor who believed he was saving lives. Welcome to Wild West Revealed. Richard Jordan Gatling was born September 12, 1818, in Maney's Neck, Hartford County, North Carolina. His father Jordan owned more than 1,000 acres worked by enslaved people, but he was also an inventor who patented cotton planting machines in 1835. Invention ran in the Gatling blood. Young Richard watched his father tinker with mechanical seeders, and that gravity-fed hopper would one day feed something far deadlier than cotton seeds. In the winter of 1845, where Gatling contracted smallpox on a riverboat business trip, 2 weeks passed before he could reach a doctor. That near-death experience changed his trajectory. He enrolled at Ohio Medical College and earned his MD in 1850. The title doctor followed him for the rest of his life, attached to the most lethal invention of his era. He never practiced medicine publicly. Instead, he returned to agricultural machinery, rice seed planter, 1839, wheat drill, hemp breaking machine, steam plow. Every invention refined the same principle: gravity feeding materials through a rotating mechanism at consistent intervals. Then came 1861, Indianapolis. Gatling stood on railway platforms watching trains return from Civil War battlefields. The cars carried the dead and the dying, young men stacked like cordwood. He learned a devastating statistic. Only 3 of every 18 soldiers died from enemy bullets. The remaining 15 died from fever, pneumonia, and disease contracted in filthy camps. His solution was terrible in its logic. A gun so devastating, it would make large armies obsolete. Fewer soldiers in the field meant fewer deaths from disease. He believed he was building a humanitarian weapon. Colonel Benjamin Harrison, who would later become the 23rd president, encouraged Gatling's work and his connections with the Colt factory. On November 4th, 1862, the United States Patent Office issued patent number 36,836, Improvement in Revolving Battery Guns. The seed planter had become a death machine. If you're already learning something about this weapon that Hollywood never showed you, hit that like button. The mechanical details coming up will change how you see every Western you've ever watched. The first Gatling gun emerged in 1862, 6 barrels, 58 caliber, reloadable steel cylinders packed with paper cartridges and percussion caps. The prototype weighed approximately 135 pounds without the carriage. Rate of fire, 150 to 200 rounds per minute. Only about 13 of these model 1862 guns were ever manufactured. The design worked, but the ammunition didn't. Paper cartridges absorbed moisture. Percussion caps misfired. The gun needed better bullets. The model 1865 changed everything. So Gatling switched to rimfire copper-cased metallic cartridges. The 58 rimfire, a beast of a round. Bronze construction with a steel breech housing. 6 barrels standard, 10 barrels on rare models. Weight climbed to 145 pounds. Rate of fire jumped to 200 to 350 rounds per minute. The multi-barrel design solved the single greatest problem of rapid-fire weapons: heat. Each barrel fired only once per revolution, spending 5/6 of the cycle cooling. A 6-barrel gun firing at 200 rounds per minute meant each individual barrel fired only 33 times per minute. Sustained fire without meltdown. Here's how it worked. The hand crank turned a central shaft. Mounted on that shaft, the barrels, a groove carrier, and a drilled lock cylinder. A cam with spiral surfaces gave reciprocating motion to the locks. Cartridges dropped from the hopper into carrier grooves by gravity, the same principle as the rice planter. The lock forced forward, chambering around. At the cam's highest point, approximately the 4 o'clock position, the cocking ring released the lock. The barrel fired. Continuing cam action extracted the spent case, which dropped free at the bottom. Tinkling brass cascading onto dirt or deck plates, mechanical grinding from the crank. And that sound, Theodore Roosevelt described it as a peculiar drumming sound, rapid staccato blurring together until individual shots became indistinguishable. The 58 rimfire cartridge deserves its own reckoning. Bullet diameter 0.58 inches, bullet weight 500 grains. To powder charge, 60 grains of black powder, muzzle velocity approximately 1,200 feet per second, muzzle energy 1,600 foot-pounds. A 500 grain soft lead projectile at that velocity didn't wound. It destroyed. The bullet deformed massively on impact, shattering bones rather than breaking them cleanly, creating wound channels the field surgeons couldn't close. The 58 caliber Minié ball was already notorious for the Civil War's astronomical amputation rates. The rimfire version delivered similar devastation, but hundreds of times per minute. The Gatling gun Clint Eastwood fires in the Outlaw Josey Wales. It's a Colt 1872 model in .45-70 caliber X, the wrong gun by 7 years for a film set in 1865. And the actual 1865 model used side-mounted hoppers for steel-chambered paper cartridges, not top-mounted stick magazines, and that slow, dramatic rate of fire Eastwood manages while operating it single-handed. The real gun could exhaust a 40-round feed case in 12 seconds. At the 1862 Indianapolis demonstration, witnesses reported the abrupt, rapid noise could be heard for 5 miles. At 200 rounds per minute, the bullets cut a 10-inch tree in half in under 30 seconds. This wasn't a weapon, it was a mechanism for creating corpses. San Juan Hill, July 1st, 1898, Lieutenant John Henry Parker was born. September 19th, 1866, in Missouri. West Point class of 1892, he graduated 49th of 62, not a star student. But Parker understood something his superiors didn't. The Gatling gun wasn't a defensive curiosity. It was an offensive weapon that could break enemy positions. He convinced Colonel Arthur MacArthur, father of Douglas MacArthur, to authorize a mobile Gatling gun detachment. 4 brand new Colt model 1895 10-barrel Gatlings, 30 caliber Army smokeless powder cartridges, 800 rounds per minute. Parker positioned 3 guns approximately 600 yards from the San Juan Hill blockhouse, 800 yards from a second Spanish ridge. The enemy immediately opened fire. Private Sign died first. Bullet through the heart. Private Kastner went down severely wounded. Others collapsed from heat exhaustion in the Cuban tropics. Sergeant Green's crew was reduced to just Green and Doyle operating the gun. Reinforcements arrived from the 10th U.S. Cavalry, the Buffalo Soldiers. Then the charge began. During the assault on San Juan Heights, 3 Gatlings fired approximately 18,000 rounds in 8.5 minutes, over 700 rounds per minute per gun. Continuous fire, Spanish defenders fled their trenches. Captain Boughton was among the first Americans to reach the crest. The trenches were filled with dead and dying Spanish riflemen. According to captured Spanish officers, only 40 of 600 Spanish troops in the targeted position survived. 40 out of 600 in 8.5 minutes. Parker relocated 2 guns and used them at 2,000 yards to destroy a Spanish artillery position when 600 Spanish troops counterattacked Kettle Hill. So Sergeant Green's single gun fired 900 rounds in 2 minutes. The assault broke. Roosevelt himself wrote that Parker deserved rather more credit than any other one man in the entire campaign. But history remembers Roosevelt's charge. Machine guns aren't romantic. Cavalry charges are. Little Bighorn, June 25th, 1876, Brigadier General Alfred Terry offered Custer a battery of Gatling guns, 2 or 3 guns, .45-70 caliber, 350 rounds per minute, commanded by Lieutenant William H. Lowe. Custer declined. His stated reasons: the guns might embarrass him, were drawn by condemned horses, and would hamper our movements over difficult terrain. So his boast to Terry, the 7th can handle anything it meets. He divided his 616 men and attacked one of the largest Native American encampments ever assembled. 1,500 to 5,000 warriors under Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. His immediate command of approximately 210 men was annihilated, every single soldier. General Nelson A. Miles later commented, "I'm not surprised that poor Custer declined. They are worthless for Indian fighting." The Gatling's 500-yard effective range, its weight, its tendency to jam, and the rough terrain made deployment unlikely in fast-moving engagements. The gun required specific conditions, open fields, fixed positions, clear sight lines. Without them, it was a liability. The Gatling wasn't a magic solution, it was a tool. And Custer's men paid the price for his refusal to bring it, and for his arrogance in thinking he wouldn't need it. If you've made it this far, you clearly care about real history over Hollywood myth. Drop a like so I know to keep digging into stories like this one. The Gatling wasn't a single weapon. It was a system that evolved across 4 decades and multiple calibers. The .58 rimfire came first, 500 grains at 1,200 feet per second. Quickly superseded because rimfire priming proved unreliable under field conditions. The .50-70 government replaced it in 1866. 450 grains, 1,250 feet per second, center fire ignition. Standard issue until 1873. Then came the .45-70 government, the most common Gatling caliber, to 405 to 500 grains at 1,350 feet per second. This was the round the Army standardized on, the round Custer refused to bring to Little Bighorn. By 1893, smokeless powder arrived. The .30 caliber Army cartridge, 220 grains at 2,000 feet per second. This was the Juan Hill gun. Flatter trajectory, less smoke, faster cycling. Feed systems evolved alongside the calibers. The original gravity feed held 20 to 40 rounds per stick magazine. At 200 rounds per minute, you exhausted a 40-round stick in 12 seconds, constant reloading. The Broadwell drum, patented around 1872, arranged 20 stacks of rounds like wheel spokes. 400 rounds total. 1 to 2 minutes of sustained fire before reloading. The Bruce feed, introduced in 1881, finally solved the problem. 2 vertical rows while one fed, the other reloaded. Genuinely continuous fire without interruption. Deployment configurations multiplied. The standard wheeled carriage put the gun plus carriage at over 500 pounds. Add the limber and ammunition, 900 to 1,200 pounds total. horse teams, and 4 to 6 man crews required. Naval mounts used swivel pedestals on gunboat decks. The Model 1883 with Ackles drum defended against torpedo boats. And yes, camel mounts were real. Egypt purchased Model 1874 camel guns with 18-inch barrels on tripods for desert operations in 1872. Today, original Gatlings command serious money. The NRA National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia holds the largest public display, including a Model 1878 reportedly used in filming, the Outlaw Josey Wales. The Cody Firearms Museum in Wyoming has the Colt Model 1883 that Colonel Melvin M. Johnson used in 1945 tests. Auction prices range from $175,000 to $350,000. A Model 1875 believed to be one Custer left at Fort Abraham Lincoln sold for approximately $300,000 in 2018. Richard Jordan Gatling died February 26, 1903, at his daughter's home in New York City. He was 84 years old. He had spent his final working day at the offices of Scientific American, still tinkering, still inventing. So he had made and lost several fortunes through real estate and railroad investments. Only a fraction of his wealth remained. Toward the end, Gatling expressed regret at having invented his famous gun. He had seen the ferocity it unleashed, and it had not deterred war as he'd hoped. The word gat, gangster slang for any gun, derives from his name, an ironic immortality for a man who claimed humanitarian motives. The Outlaw Josey Wales remains the most iconic Gatling scene in cinema, entirely invented for the screenplay, depicting a one-man operation of a crew-served weapon with an impossible ammunition supply. The scene doesn't exist in the source novel. The biggest myth that persists, that the Gatling was a Western weapon. It saw almost no use in the traditional Wild West period. Its proving grounds were Cuba, Zululand, and the colonial frontiers, not Tombstone or Dodge City. In 1945, Colonel Melvin M. Johnson bolted an electric motor to an antique Colt Model 1883 Gatling. He achieved 4,000 to 5,800 rounds per minute. That test led directly to the M61 Vulcan, which has armed virtually every American fighter jet for over 60 years. Gatling's core innovation, multiple rotating barrels distributing heat, remains the foundation of all modern rotary weapons 160 years later. The seed planter's mechanism never stopped turning, it just spins faster now. 6,000 rounds per minute instead of 200, and the seeds it plants don't grow. If you made it this far, you understand why real history matters more than Hollywood myth. Drop a like, subscribe, and share this with someone who thinks they know the Gatling gun. Welcome to Wild West Revealed, where the truth is always more dangerous than the legend.